Joining us now, Eddie Yeranian. Yeah, you can call him Steady Eddie. You can call him a lot of things, but one thing you can't call him is fake news, because he's there, Johnny, on the spot all the time. He's live in Cairo. He's our man in the Middle East with the Voice of America and a longtime radio veteran with CBS Radio News. I guess you could also call him a radio veteran of the John Fredericks Show, because he's been with us for 9 years. 9 years. It's a long time. Edward Yeranian, great to have you, man.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the compliment.
Well, it's easy to compliment you because you're great. Let's get to KSA and Mohammed bin Salman. Boy, they love to get war with Iran, right? Kind of like the U.S. can be their proxy. Wouldn't they love that? Tongue in cheek, obviously. Now, they're saying that oil stations have been attacked by armed drones from Yemen and the Houthis. How do you believe anything that comes out of either KSA or UAE? Everyththing they say I find suspect. Call me crazy, but ever since Khashoggi and everything, I just don't believe anything they say. So help us understand what's going on here.
Yeah, John, I'm not sure what I believe anymore after 32 years in the Middle East from anywhere, to be honest with you, but we try to piece things together. The latest stories coming out of of Saudi Arabia was that the Houthis had tried to fire missiles at Mecca yesterday, and that they hit nowhere near Mecca, apparently, so not clear if they were actually aiming for Mecca. The Saudi media said they were. Today, the BBC Arabic service is saying that the Houthis tried to hit, or did hit, the city of Najran, which is close to the Yemeni border, and that they hit an arms depot. I think one of them was with a drone. That apparently was with a drone, and yesterday they said the Houthis fired missiles. It's difficult to say what is part of the ongoing conflict between the Houthis in Yemen and the Saudi coalition, and what's part of the Gulf tensions. But clearly, I think what you need to take out of all of this is that Iran and its allies are firing missiles. The Hezbollah people have lots and lots of rockets and missiles. Hamas has been armed with lots of rockets, and I'm not sure what kinds of missiles, but certainly there were claims that they had a new kind of missile during the last eruption, I should say, within the past couple of weeks. From Gaza, that is, and the militiamen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, the Shabi, as they call them, have apparently been, I'm not sure anyone took responsibility for the attack, or if you want to call it an attack, firing rockets near the U.S. Embassy in the Green Zone in Baghdad. I don't think they came close to hitting the embassy, at least from the reports that we've seen, but certainly it does seem like some sort of a provocation in a small way.
So Houthi military spokesman in Yemen, I'm not sure I'll say his name right, Yahya Sari, said 7 drones carried out the airstrikes on the Saudi oil installations. He said, and this is a direct quote, quoting from the Al Jazeera network, he said it was a successful operation. We found assistance from people living in Saudi Arabia, and we had excellent intelligence, Sari said. And Andreas Krieg from King's College in London said the drone strikes now show the Houthis are now capable of attacking deep into Saudi territory, causing concern for Mohammed bin Salman and KSA, because this war in Yemen is just, it's, first of all, it's sucking them dry financially, and second of all, they're actually losing, even with our backing. I mean, they've gained no ground there. What a mess this is, right?
Well, it is an ugly mess. It's not clear who's winning, if you can say it, put it that way. I don't know what a win would actually look like, to be honest with you. But certainly the Saudi coalition forces have been going closer to Sada, which is the home turf of the Houthis. But, of course, Sada is not really the most important target here. It's, of course, Sana'a, and I don't think the Saudi coalition is close to taking Sana'a, that's for sure.
I tell you what, speaking of Al Jazeera for a second, you know, they Al Jazeera Arabic, they ran a video, like an anti-Semitic video that the editors let go on. They had to take it down. Have you heard about that?
Yes, it was the Saudi media played it up, just like Qatar plays up the faux pas of the Saudis. Of course, the Arabic Jazeera is not broadcasting the same material as the English Jazeera, so right. I guess in a way they're not looking at for the same audience.
Right.
Of course, when I watch Jazeera, I watch the Arabic Jazeera, and so I would, if I were commenting on Jazeera, I might say something different than if I were watching the English Jazeera. So
right.
just to let your audience know that they're not quite the same thing.
Right.
And we, in the United States, have had quarrels with the Arabic Jazeera over the years in Afghanistan, in Iraq. In fact, I think the accusation was that our military people in 2003 bombed Jazeera's office in Baghdad, and also that we bombed their office in Kabul during the outset of the hostilities, I guess, in 2001. So a lot of things. The Jazeera is sort of at the threshold of whatever crisis, between the East and the West sometimes.
Well, I thought the video that they put up, how the editors let that go, that was Al Jazeera Arabic station. I mean, that was just an anti-Semitic video. There was no, I mean, it had nothing to do with news. And so, when that kind of thing seeps into your network, now I know the two people that did it got suspended, but they were employees of the company. And, when editors let this stuff go, I mean, it takes a hit to your credibility. And I know they got suspended and Al Jazeera senior executives got involved in it. But when you do that kind of thing and you put that kind of stuff out, because basically they were questioning the video, as I understand it. I didn't see it, even if I did and wouldn't understand it was in Arabic. But apparently it was questioning the numbers of Jews that died during the Holocaust and, questioning whether or not that a lot of it was exaggerated in order to create the state of Israel. And I think we've already been down that path like for a very long time. And the Holocaust deniers are just, I don't know what planet they're on, but there's, I was disappointed in that because, you hope that they continue to be or attempt to be a legitimate news agency. Certainly that didn't fit exactly what they advertised. Let's get to the Iranian situation and war with the U.S. Eddie, you got the typical U.S. military industrial complex warmongers, rattling sabers, banging drums, saying there's intel that the Iranians are moving missiles around and they're within striking distance of American assets and they're putting us at risk. And you got a lot of people now saying, the time to strike them is now. I don't know what you do after you struck them. But you got the typical, Dick Cheney, neocon, John Bolton, warmongers, rattling sabers in order to get us involved in another conflict there. And, of course, Ed, you understand better than anybody. If we do, well, there's billions of dollars to be made off this. This is all about money. Our kids come home in body bags, and they get richer. What happens now?
Well, I think the recent developments are yesterday the Omani foreign minister was in Tehran. I think Oman has been sort of a conduit for diplomacy since the Gulf, since the nuclear deal in 2015. You asked why Qatar got cut out of the negotiations. I guess because the Saudis and the Emiratis are involved as well, and they would rather not see Qatar negotiating. But certainly using the good offices of the Omani foreign minister, I think that's a sign that President Trump is trying to de-escalate. Also, contacts with the Swiss president several days earlier. I think he's made a lot of efforts to de-escalate. I think the danger here is that people that would like to see him get into a war or get the United States involved in a war are still pushing. And I think parts of the intelligence community, which tried to get us involved in a war in Syria, over Syria several times, over gas attacks, several of which I believe were false flag operations, which you mentioned the last time we chatted. I think that intelligence community, parts of it are dangerous. I think they could ultimately pull a false flag operation in this kind of a conflict and get us involved in a sort of a real war with Iran. I don't think either President Trump or Ayatollah Khamenei want to get into a conflict. Ayatollah Khamenei and Trump have both said they do not.
So you nailed it, Edward. This is why we love having you on. This is the same cabal, the same military-industrial complex cheerleaders that tried to escalate the war in Syria with, they kept leaking intel reports about Assad's doing this and Assad's doing that, and barrel bombs or whatever else they said. And so they kept leaking it in order to get us involved in that. Luckily, we didn't. Luckily, President Trump resisted that, other than blowing up their airfields with those missiles that time. But what is the process here to get a real de-escalation in tensions? Like, what does the U.S. have to do, in your judgment?
I think Trump is trying to open up a channel with Khamenei directly, but I think that's misjudging the situation because he hates the United States to the point where he doesn't want to talk to us directly. His proxies talk to us, the Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, Qasem Soleimani. I've heard from many sources that he's indirectly contacted us in Iraq many times. If a missile or a rocket got sent to the green zone in Baghdad, I suspect that's a message from him. I suspect that the rocket that got fired in Basra back in September was a message from Qasem Soleimani because their embassy was also attacked prior to that. I think he sends a lot of messages. I don't think he likes to get into a direct war. And these are the people who are he's a proxy for the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. I've been told over the years covering Iran that Ayatollah Khamenei, the Supreme Leader, was in jail under the Shah a number of times, and he blames the Savak, their intelligence agency, for torturing him, and he believes that the U.S. supported the Savak. So I think he hates the United States to the point where he does not want to talk to us directly, and I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I think that's what the president is trying to do.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. I am your Godzilla of the truth. We're with Eddie Yeranian, our man in the Middle East, longtime veteran, the voice of America, and also CBS Radio News. Edward, another odd, bizarre twist of events here in the Middle East. Sometimes, you just follow this stuff, and I think you started the segment by saying you've been there 35 years, and so nothing surprises you. So the Palestinian leadership has not even been consulted about a U.S.-led conference in Bahrain in June in support of Trump's secret Middle East peace plan. This was leaked by Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shatia. So you're going to do a peace plan, you're having a conference on a peace plan, and you don't invite the people that have to be in the peace plan to your conference in Bahrain. What can you just help me understand the logic behind that move?
Well, I think the Gulf states, which bankroll a lot of the peacemaking, are hoping to, I don't want to use quite the word coerce, but it does amount to that, the Palestinians into coming up with a deal. The Saudi media quoted Mohammed bin Salman, I believe last week, saying something to the effect that the Palestinians have rejected peace plans since 1948, and each time they've rejected them, the Palestinians have come out with less than they had before. So their talking point, at least at the moment, is that the Palestinians should accept whatever deal is on the table. I don't even know what that deal is since we haven't heard the details of it, but the argument from some Arab quarters is that the Palestinians would be better off to take the deal. Now, I'm not going to try to take sides on this, but Obviously, the Palestinians are upset that they're not being consulted about what's going on, as you pointed out.
Well, I think they should be consulted. I don't know how you put this deal together without being consulted. So that's number one. But look, Palestinian officials have said that this meeting, by the way, it's so our audience knows, June 25, 26, Bahrain. They said, look, it's not going to address the core political issues of the conflict, which is really what you have to address, which is final borders, sovereignty, and the status of Palestinian refugees. I mean, these are the three issues that none of them are being addressed. And I think it looks like Jared Kushner thinks that he can somehow get this coalition together, bring a lot of money and infrastructure and investment into Palestinian-dominated areas, better schools, better roads, better future, better education, and that's going to placate them. I don't think it is, because if you understand the political reality there, Edward, I mean, without some sort of a sovereignty and clear borders, I don't know how you're going to get this done. I mean, I don't mean to be negative. I want to be positive, right? We'd love to see peace. I want to be positive. I just don't see it without some sort of a sovereignty enterprise. And comment on this, especially because a year ago or so, the Israelis passed the new law that basically relegates non-Israeli citizens or Palestinians under Israeli rule into permanent second-class citizens in perpetuity. So, based on that law, how do you buy your way out of this?
Well, I think that Palestinian, that is, they call them Israeli Arabs, on the Israeli side, if they're citizens, they are still allowed to vote. Some may argue they're second-class citizens. I know some who don't. But at the same time, I think the main problem here is that if you have 75% of the Palestinians who are satisfied with the deal, you'll always have a quarter or something like that are not. So you can't really cut a deal if everyone is not on board. And people are saying, well, you'll never get everybody on board, so let's just try to cut some kind of deal that will lessen tensions. Can you do that? I don't know. I'm not optimistic either. And I think the efforts being made, they could either cause tensions to lessen even without a comprehensive deal, or they could cause an eruption. I mean, that's the danger, an eruption.
Why not do everything that Jared Kushner and his envoy Greenblatt are doing, and package it as and make part of it as two-state solution? Why not do that? I mean, it seems like they've got 75% of it makes sense, but I just don't see how you're going to get Palestinian political buy-in without sovereignty. I don't think there's enough money to buy that off.
Probably not, and also because you don't have unity between the two Palestinian factions,
right,
Hamas and the Fatah. And so long as that doesn't happen, you're going to have infighting on whatever sort of deal is reached, even if it is a comprehensive deal.
They get an A for effort, I'll tell you that. I mean, I know Jared Kushner and envoy Greenblatt have worked really hard on it, so they get an A for effort. I got to roll. Edward Yeranian, great insight as always on the John Fredericks Radio Network.